Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Gaming Symposium. I'm the Game Professor, and with me, as always, are the other members of the Symposium.
I'm EmceeProphit. I'm the hot one.
I'm Red Angel. I'm the smart one.
I'm Chris. I'm the one that you know is going to be really, really fat in like 10 years after the band falls apart.
Oh god, I'm already there. That's like.
And with us today is a special guest.
Hello, everybody. This is the Kitsune Hawk, and I'm the questionably appropriate one here.
The Green Ranger.
The Green Ranger.
That's no fair. He's got the coolest sword.
Because he's got the green hair.
Oh,
He can do
And the
he can-
flute and the he got to voice Vash the Stampede. And why do I know this much about Power Rangers? What is
He's
wrong with me?
I would have thought I would have been the Pink Ranger because that's my favorite color.
He's so
No,
cool
Adam-
that he can...
The Black Ranger. He was the one that voiced Vash the Stampede. That's Johnny Young Bosch.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
serious?
wow, I'm
Black
wrong.
Ranger.
Good. I don't know that much about Power Rangers. Good. Go me.
Oh god, I know more than you guys. Oh no.
Oh man.
Wait, wait a minute. Wasn't the Black Ranger black?
The first Black Ranger was, and then he left the show for undisclosed reasons, and then they got another Black Ranger, and he was
Johnny Young Bosch?
Johnny Young Bosch.
Holy crap, that's amazing.
Believe it or not, we also talk about games in this
Let's
podcast.
We
talk-
promise.
No. We're talking about Johnny Young Bosch for the rest of this episode now.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah,
Good
maybe
new
you
plan.
could do one of those Power Rangers arcade games in the future.
Ooh, I'm sure we'll
Ooh.
have a lot to talk about that. As-
Symbolism, dude.
Well, in any case, this is the Gaming Symposium. So, for anyone who's new to this podcast, the way it works, we all take turns choosing a video game that all of us are going to play, and then after a month, barring some sort of crazy delay like what happened this time, we get back together and talk about it, and be all pretentious about it, like we do.
Yeah.
Now, we have a guest this time, as was said before, Kitsune Hawk, and he chose the game for this month, and we all played it. So at this point, I am going to give him the floor to lead our discussion.
Right. So the game I chose for this month is Why Am I Dead at Sea by Peltis. I think I've heard it as Peltis Software and Peltis Designs, but we'll just call them Peltis. And it's essentially a mystery game, a murder mystery game, where you are a passenger on a ship. You've been mysteriously murdered at the start of the game, and now as a ghost, you have to figure out who murdered you as well as who you are by possessing the crew of the ship and learning more about them.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really cool.
I'm sorry, I tried to do the abridged summary there because I thought we were stressed for time.
Oh
No.
no, we never are. Are you kidding me? Look at
We're
this.
way too long
Look at
for
like the
that.
You heard how
time.
long we talk?
Yeah.
That said, it would make sense to talk about it a bit without spoilers first, so
Alright.
Yes.
that's a good summary for that point.
Ah, right.
Here we go.
Right, so just right off the bat, with me explaining what the game is, I do want to ask, what did everybody think of the game's general concept? Was it a unique take on the murder mystery narrative, or did you play anything similar to it before?
I think it might have been influenced by a game called Ghost Trick.
Oh yeah.
Which is actually a game from the same guy who designed the Phoenix Wright series, well, the Ace Attorney series. And it's just the same premise. You're dead, you don't know who you were, you gotta possess people, only in this case there are also objects that you can possess in order to interact with things, solve puzzles, and gather information. So I think it might have been influenced by that, but on the other hand, there was also originally a Flash game a long time ago just called Why Am I Dead, made by the same guy. So I have no idea if that came first, because that's apparently old school. But yeah, no, overall, I loved the premise. I loved the story. I loved the characters. The execution, in my opinion, was horrible. Because I actually think that it was like one of the most cryptic, nonsensical games I've ever played.
I used to walk through.
Yeah, me too. And
yeah, I had to consult one a few
Admittedly,
times.
I was able to get to chapter 4 before I had to use a walkthrough.
yeah, me too.
That was where I got
Um,
stuck. I
Well,
just
because
went, why do I do it?
as long as the boy's there to help you, it's easy enough to figure out
Yes,
basically
exactly.
what you need to do. But after that,
Mhm. But there was this one instance where you had to initiate a conversation by fully possessing someone, and then in order to progress the story, you had to unpossess them and then repossess them, but only slightly possess them, and then
Right.
continue talking to the same person. Ah! That's
Dreams of
nuts.
dreamy people.
Yeah, no.
See,
like,
the
that's-
part I got stuck on, I can probably describe it without spoilers, was where you have to walk up to somebody while possessing one character, then unpossess them, then possess the character
Yeah.
you walked
Yeah.
up to.
Yep,
Yeah, that's
That took me-
another
that was
one.
fun.
So
I know
much
exactly.
longer to figure out than it needed to.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Me too. Everybody I kept possessing kept running away, and I got really annoyed. I was just going, no, come back.
Yeah, that's
Take over your body.
That's another like obnoxious like convenience problem, because like
Yeah.
when you unpossess someone, they take off to where they're initially supposed to be within the, like 5 seconds. So you can't just unpossess someone real quick and then do something and then repossess them. You got to plan way ahead.
They have like a routed area that they go back and forth in between, and as soon as you unpossess them, they just sprint as fast as they can to that next area. And I kept thinking about, I was going, can I follow them with a bat? Can I just smack them upside the head and then possess them? Because I was getting so frustrated at a couple points. Because it was always, Sue was always the one that
Sue,
ran
yeah.
from me.
So
She was always, I'd go, get back here, you can't run that fast in that dress, I know you can't.
Yeah.
she was like the second fastest character. That's another thing. They all have different walk speeds,
Yeah.
which can make some characters very annoying to play.
Can you say Daryl?
Oh, yeah. Seriously.
Daryl's depressed walk is
Love him
I
as
mean,
a
it's
character,
good.
but man.
it's good theming wise, but ugh.
Well, he has his speed, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jokes.
I really like. I had a mixed relationship with the game, like in concept, because I really like it, and the idea of a murder. Like there are other games, you know, like a LA Noire, Ghost Trick, of course, but that's even like basically any game that has a mystery, whether we're talking like far visual novel-esque stuff like Phoenix Wright or more actiony stuff like LA Noire. You have this system of like discovering things in order to better understand a scenario, but they're a little more guided than this, mostly because I think at least because this game, everything you find out is by talking to people in different scenarios as different people. Like there's so many different factors in how you find everything out. And see, I always like, man, when I was a kid I loved detective books, but I wanted to be a detective, but man, I was the worst detective. Like I'd never, like I had those Encyclopedia Brown books where it would not tell you the ending and you had to figure it out, and the ending was only at the end of the book, and I never ever could. I'm terrible at it, so I was so bad at this game.
Yeah.
Ridiculously bad. And I guess that's kind of the takeaway. Like it made it so that it was less this guided, like, you know, it wasn't giving you any clues or anything, but and that's kind of cool, but the downside, of course, is that if you're not good at it, at that kind of deduction, you're just straight up not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
I think I would echo MC's opinion. I love what this game is trying to do. Very, very
Yeah.
much. Like, I love the constrained space. That's not something you see in a lot of games in general. Like, the whole game takes place on this one boat, and it's only, like, total, maybe 25 screens total, I think, something like that. It's not a big boat, and that's really cool. And I also love the fact that all the mechanics are driven by getting to know the other characters. So sort of de facto, the game is about knowing other characters and interacting with other characters and knowing their backstory and getting to know them and what makes them tick in order to either manipulate them or find the truth of what happened on the boat. Those two things combined are like very much my jam. I love the idea of a constrained space, and I love the idea of a character-driven narrative. It's the execution I think I have issue with, but we can get to that later. But I love the idea of what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For me, it was a really good concept, and off the top of my head I was able to think of a couple of other things that did that, but they weren't video games. As soon as you mentioned Ghost Trick and MC, immediately my brain went, oh yeah, that exists. But there was a lot of series, because I actually thought of this movie Ghost when I first started playing this. I go, oh, okay, so I'm finding out who my murderer is, just like in Ghost, kind of. So I kind of connected it with movies and TV shows about ghosts, trying to find out who murdered them or trying to figure out why they're there or things like that. But I thought it was a really good concept, but like everyone else, I was sitting there going, okay, this is a great concept and everybody has all these different skill sets and this is really interesting and this part is enjoyable. This execution is bad, though.
Yeah.
Did Ghost Dad have to figure out why he died?
Oh, why?
Ghost Dead.
Why?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Wait, what?
that Bill Cosby
Why
movie?
did you do that?
Every time I think about Bill Cosby, I get depressed now. So thanks.
Why would you bring up that movie?
I actually think he
Why?
did.
He choked on a pudding pop. Memes.
Ghost Dad. I'm googling this.
Oh boy. Oh please do. Well, I mean, oh man. Okay, no.
Just look up the Nostalgia Critic review.
And
Yeah,
with that, I have
basically.
completely derailed the podcast. I apologize.
No.
I was about to say I'm very lost.
Oh
So
my
I'm just,
god.
I'm just now
link it in.
realizing how much fun it would be if we all lived near each other and could watch bad movies together.
Oh Christ.
Yeah.
Oh god, this movie.
Symposium and chill.
It's like oh.
We
It's
could
like
probably
the
watch it on the
worst.
stream.
That's true.
It's I can confidently say it's probably the second worst thing that Bill Cosby's ever been involved in.
Oh boy. Anyway, we should talk more
Anyways.
about video games, guys.
Video games.
Yeah.
Right,
Thanks,
I was
Chris,
just
for
gonna
that
say,
lovely little sidetrack.
Well,
I was just gonna say, I echo basically what everybody said, that the concept is very much very well fleshed out, but the way it's handled at times is not the best. I think in particular the fourth chapter of the game is where I started to have a few problems with it. But the first three chapters were very well done.
mhm.
It's only towards the fourth chapter, which I think is the longest in the game, and then the ending that it kind of splinters.
It is particularly the ending I have a problem with, just because the order and method and who you possess in what order and what you do, and how
Yeah.
there are certain things where you have to possess this person this much, partially or fully, in order to make them say this or make them confess this, and then you have to possess anyone else, and it can be anyone else, and then you can say this. Then you gotta possess someone else specific again. Like,
Or
See, that's one of
locking
the-
locking
one
you
of
out of
the-
the endings.
Yeah, seriously. Well, one of the tensions that I'm like constantly feeling in games that try to do this is the tension between structure and realism, and like this is dealing with people, and it's trying to deal with them in a realistic way. Like, I love the idea that there is a distinction between possessing someone fully so that you are acting through them, and only like kind of nudging them, you know, so that you kind of have to know who this person is and what kinds of things they would talk about and what their feelings are, and use that in the right instances. Like, as a concept, I absolutely love that, but in practice it just ends up entirely without structure, and you end up not knowing all the time what it is that you're supposed to even be trying to accomplish. And there's always a fine balance there, and it lies in different places depending on what a game's trying to do, but it can get really frustrating.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So moving forward from there, another thing I want to ask is how the game looks, because the game has a very clearly Earthbound Mother, very Mother-esque aesthetic. And I'm curious what you all made of that. Did you think it added to the game's quality or subtract from it? As in, did it make for good juxtaposition for the themes that it brings up, or could it have looked just a little bit more serious?
I I just finished Mother 3, so I can very easily take these things seriously in a dramatic context, to say the least. I think that is an extremely subjective question. I mean, it always is. That's just kind of how it is. Like, I still know people. Me and Sam were talking about this like a couple months ago about that game demo for Long Gone Days, and how some people say like, I can't take it I can't take serious subject matter about war and drama and death when everyone's like anime pretty.
Someone apparently hasn't watched anime before.
Yeah.
Anime takes on stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, but people have like issues with that, and I say, you know, it's ultimately completely and totally subjective. Like, I was able to take it very seriously. I've always liked stylized art, and I've never really had a problem with it. So
Yeah,
But-
I was gonna say what you're reminding me of is like with Picasso and Cubism. You don't really think much of it, but then you see something like Guernica, and then all of a sudden there's that strong emotional feeling you get from it.
Mhm.
From what would normally be an art style you don't have that sort of strong feeling with.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I understand having a particular, you know, liking or disliking art styles or whatever, but I'm kind of with MC on this one in terms of being able to take them seriously if the presentation is that way, I suppose. I mean, you know, like I can think of plenty of animated movies and stuff that, you know, you'd look at, or heck, Steven Universe. Lots of super emotional moments in that, and the art style is this real simple, silly-looking children's show.
Yeah.
Or friggin' Adventure Time, for that matter. Like,
Yeah.
if the subject matter is serious and the presentation is good, then I can, you know, then the art style doesn't really matter for me unless it's, like, incredibly ugly or something. Like, I'm not going to have trouble taking it seriously. So it worked perfectly fine for me.
For me, it was both, if that's possible. It kind of both added and subtracted to it. On one hand, the game took a now and then here and there approach to it, where it uses this unique style of artwork in order to alleviate the shock or soften the blows of the heavier themes, and because it's making it all the more dramatic. Also, for reference, for anyone in the audience who does not know what I'm talking about, Now and Then Here and There is an anime based entirely around the Rwandan genocide.
Oh, gosh.
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it takes inspiration from it and creates a fantasy dystopian world based almost entirely around the child soldiers within the Rwandan genocide. And it's drawn in a way where everything kind of looks a little bit more fuzzy or a little bit more rounded and childlike in order to soften the fact that there's a lot of murder happening.
Jesus.
Holy crap,
But I know-
that's a thing that exists.
Oh no,
I have
there's
it if anyone ever wants to borrow it.
a lot of anime like that are focused on portrayal of, you know, victims of war. Graveyard of the Fireflies. It's still like I mean, it's not by Miyazaki, but it is Studio Ghibli. It's by the other iconic director who I can't remember the name of.
Mm-hmm.
Ghibli always has nice soft art with wide-eyed characters who are very expressive, and it's Vietnam. And everyone's houses are burning, and there's mass graves, and you see them in detail with the corpses. So, yeah.
That was the first movie my wife and I ever watched together. It was very romantic.
Very Oh. Honey, look at those mass graves.
Look at this child eating dirt.
Oh. How romantic. One day we should have a child that eats dirt.
Oh, man.
I do think it does distract from only certain scenes. Just certain scenes I noticed I was a little bit less than enthused with the art style. I wish that they had kind of almost an animation to it. Like any of the scenes between Alton and Sue. Their storyline,
Yes.
every once in a while, when they had a confrontation, when like very intense conversations, I wish that there was some sort of animation or something where I could see their facial expressions, because I love seeing that.
Yeah.
And that was the only time where the Earthbound style just kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah.
That said, I feel like at that point, to do more than that, this game would have probably had to have a bigger production and budget than it did.
That's true.
So, I mean, like, if we're talking theoretically, could it have been better if it, you know, ignoring budget and manpower and such, it simply had a different art style and it worked?
Yeah.
Then, you know, maybe. But I this is just one guy, right? Wouldn't
I think
expect him
so.
to make, you know, like, heavy rain-style detail.
I think it was just
faces.
one
One
of
guy
two
and a
people and
musician.
then a composer. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
I still
Chris
like
was going
I
to say
liked it.
something, too.
Yeah, Chris's turn.
Damn it.
Thrown at you.
I really didn't dig the Earthbound aesthetic at all. For what the game was trying to tackle, like it didn't bug me whenever it was just exploring and character interactions, because it felt wholly appropriate for that. But the actual themes of the game are super grimdark, and it's really weird to have like do 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 do
Yeah.
do do, and then like that's the background music for you like trying to find a serial murderer on a boat. Like that's really weird. And it's like, okay, I could buy that. Like Phoenix Wright is about, you know, people sometimes die and you still have upbeat music and haha, people are dead, whatever. I'm Phoenix Wright. I'm gonna find out I'm gonna solve the murder. But at least with like Phoenix Wright, it's one person is dead and then you find out who did it and you put them to justice, and so that's why it's upbeat. It's right, like no matter what, justice wins the day. We're gonna solve this murder and we're gonna put the bad guy in jail. And that's not really what this game is about.
Yeah.
Especially because like I don't know whether we're into spoiler territories yet, but it gets some really
Now
heavy...
we are. Spoilers, everyone.
Spoiler warning.
Well, I'm not gonna like just throw out
Spoilers.
the ending, but like suffice it to say, like, you know, you'll talk to Daryl, like it'll be like do 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 do, and you're gonna possess somebody. First of all, that in itself is kind of weird, and they just sort of gloss over like, you're going to take away someone's free will, and that's going to be your thing now, and okay.
Oh yeah.
But you possess somebody, and then like you go up to the top deck and talk to Daryl, and it's like do, and it's clearly Earthbound inspired graphics, and you talk to Daryl, and Daryl's like, my wife fucking died, and like you will see that they say the F word, they drop F-bombs casually.
That's true, yeah.
In the middle of like do music, and it's just tonally completely dissonant, and that may have been intentional, but it did not work for me at all. Like, I'm okay with tonal dissonance. Like, Life is Beautiful is a Holocaust movie, but it's a funny Holocaust movie if you can picture that. But like, it's contrasting the comedy of the dude being a goofy guy in the worst of situations with the enormity of the horror that he's facing. This game doesn't do that. It kind of feels more like somebody is making a game like a 35-year-old dude is making a game inspired by Earthbound because it's what he grew up with to deal with serious issues because he's an adult now and that's what he's interested in. And it just rings of a case of Arrested Development, and it didn't work for me. It's like somebody making a game about the Holocaust as a Zelda clone, or a game about like drug addiction, but it looks like Kirby. Like it's the themes are really heavy in this game, and the Earthbound JRPG happy atmosphere just, to me, did not click at all. There's this big gulf between what the game wants to talk about and what the game presents itself as, and it might be intentional. It might be like, oh wow, I'm supposed to feel completely dissonant right now, but for me, it just alienated me.
I could see that.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely see that. That's why I said, like, I can definitely see why that would bother some people.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Chris on this one. I can give it some leniency because, as MC stated, the Mother series does get away with some pretty serious themes, but with the sense of Why Am I Dead at Sea, I felt as if it could have gotten a little bit darker towards the end of the game. Like, what they do with the music and the aesthetics, that's fine for the first and second chapter, but you get to the third chapter, and then that dissonance starts getting, very noticeable.
Especially since we just covered a couple games that like have a lot of really dark themes, but don't really necessarily present them. Like, they're still cartoony. Like, Eve and Off both are RPGs that have kind of dark themes, but they don't like come off as Earthbound. I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, but like, for some reason, Earthbound's graphics work for what Earthbound is trying to do, because Earthbound is trying to tackle serious subjects, but they're more abstract serious subjects. They're like quasi-religious, pseudo origin of man, weird, like Earthbound stuff, the Mother stuff. And this is very much concrete. This is like human trafficking and murder. This is stuff that would show up on a Law and Order episode. And
also
so,
cancer.
Also that.
Yes. You know what I think it is? I think it's the fact that Earthbound, while it deals with very emotional subject matter, Earthbound always feels like it's being told from the perspective of a child, and I think that is a lot of what makes it work.
Right.
And that's why this doesn't work sometimes. Yeah,
because it's all adult subject matter, and it's all dark, and they're all aware of it, and like Chris keeps saying. Like, now when the music suits a situation, when the atmosphere suits a situation, it works great. Some of the soundtrack is really atmospheric and creepy and emotional, but but like some of the music, especially the music, is actually bothers me more than the art style, because you're right, they play those happy tunes way too often.
And when it commits to an emotionally heavy moment, it works. Like, I can't remember the character's name, but the guy that gets shot when he finds out about the secret hole. Donovan,
Donovan.
Like, that scene where he gets shot was actually kind of emotionally engaging, because it wasn't like playing Chuck E. Cheese music at the time. It was actually like, no, this is a serious event.
That was a great moment, and I believe that was totally silent.
I think it was,
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
I think so.
And that
my favorite compliment to the music is when there was no music. Now I feel bad.
That says something. That
Good
definitely
job.
says something.
A truly great composer knows when to be silent.
Yeah.
Well, they just had to bust out the 433. I get the feeling that joke went over a few people's heads, and I'm sad now.
A little explain it, because I have a feeling it went over.
433. It's a piece of, I think it's modern era music, where it's just 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence.
Oh, right.
Written by Johnny Cage. Well, John Cage,
Yes.
still.
I'd forgotten about that.
I knew that. I remember the reference now. It took me a second.
So, since we touched upon the cast a little bit in that last question, I also want to ask 2 questions regarding the cast. But first, more importantly, those 2 questions. Which of the crew members did you find the most interesting, and why?
Interesting.
Quayla and Daryl kind of stole
Are
the
they
show
crew?
for me.
Yeah. Quayla and Daryl for me too.
But they're
I
not
can
crew.
understand.
They're what?
So what?
They're not crew, are they? They're aren't they guests on the boat?
Oh, right.
Oh, sure. Okay.
My mistake
Sure.
with my wording, sorry.
So just which of the characters then?
Yep, apparently I'm not fully awake right now.
Oh, okay.
Quietly
So
switch the
you
names.
do mean characters in general.
Passengers, yeah, or passengers or crew, there we go.
Okay.
Characters.
I honestly did find like all of them interesting in one way
Yes.
or another. But I would have to agree that Quella and Daryl also for me were the 2 most interesting. Donovan as well, but Quella and Daryl more so, I think.
I like. Oh, go ahead.
I like really admired Donovan. I felt like he was kind of the underrated hero of the story. Kind of anti-hero elements, obviously, given how the story can end. But I really do like I like how much is kind of left open to interpretation about him. I'm sad that he dies. I wish that there was like a ending where he doesn't die.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's just so much that you want to know about him, and there's so much little bits of information that you can use to theorize about why he became like this, what happened to him in the past, did he lose a certain someone to this serial killer, all that other stuff. Like, is that why he's so demented and so hell-bent on this? Is it that personal? And I like how they left a lot of stuff open to interpretation, so Donovan is another, like, really good character, but I do like all of them, definitely.
Yeah, it really did strike me how they never straight up explained what was up with Donovan. It seemed to be pretty heavily implied that he had some kind of personal stake in this whole serial killer thing, but it never actually explained that. As compared to everyone else where you learn like every detail of their lives.
Yes.
Right.
But I kind of like that.
If I
It was
remember correctly,
implied. with
Donovan and Ferdinand, and Mercurio, I think, are the only characters you can't fully possess at any point in the
Yes.
game.
Right.
Those are the only ones.
And I don't know if what Red was about. You were saying something about it being implied, Red?
Well, some of Donovan, a lot of those. You guys read all the letters, right?
Yeah, the emails and such.
Mhm.
Yeah, the emails and
With
such.
Lucille?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay. Generally, and I'm assuming here, so go ahead and call us game theory again. I don't care. But with all those emails to Lucille, it seems that he had something going on with her, and he was getting really invested in her, and maybe this was her case before his, or maybe she was so invested in the case that he wanted to do this for her, and they were really into each other, but then they had to break things off. That's generally what I got from the language that they used.
Yes, and I also have a feeling that I feel like that and or Lucille died to the serial killer while chasing him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
It does seem like something at least that bad would have to happen considering Donovan's
Break.
Donovan, yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that there is literally no ending in which he does not kill himself, so that
Yeah, no. I feel like she's probably dead, and I feel like this was like his last mission.
I liked Alton and Sue. Like those are the 2 characters I really resonated with. Like I like Alton's self-loathing, and that was really believable in a way that some of the other characters are a little bit more arch. But Alton felt like the spoiled rich kid that did this, but then kind of realized that it wasn't really the thing he should have done. And then Sue is there, but she's not there because it's fun and games. She's there because she needs to eat. And their conflict actually felt really genuine. I like their interactions.
Definitely. They felt
so
really
bad.
real. Yeah.
Yeah, I did feel so bad when, I'm possessing Alton and it leads to full possession of him, and he's all like, I forget exactly what he said, but he was just all like, man, I guess I am really like completely worthless, and then the game's like, good job, you can possess him fully now. I'm like, oh, great. I mean,
I'm a piece of crap. Oh, good thing you can possess him now.
Yeah, I was almost expecting, kind of a turn in the story, like, turns out you're evil or something, just because I felt really bad about that, but...
I
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
like
they-
Gwen too.
And then if you did a little bit of snooping around as
Yeah.
Donovan, there is a little bit more you can find out about Alton that just makes me feel really sad for him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
These college transcripts, how he was a genius at first, basically, and then quickly fell off and got unmotivated.
Yeah,
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
that is relatable.
that's a sad day.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
That's a thing. Like, there's not a single character that I didn't like in some way. But maybe the only exception is, to some extent, Ferdinand. We're going to talk about him later.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's,
Unique.
yeah. I mean, I
Special.
think, like, to put it bluntly, he's a psychopath and kind of a cartoony portrayal of one.
Just
And-
a smidge.
Yeah, and you kind of see it coming a mile away. Like, I knew it was him.
Me too.
What if
That's a
What if-
question
guys,
coming later on. So yeah.
what if Gilligan from Gilligan's Island, but Jason Voorhees?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Honestly, that's what I was when I was a kid and I watched Gilligan's Island. I was always sitting here going, "Is he gonna kill him?" Because my mind immediately went there. I went, "Are they gonna die?" Because I didn't know how old the show was,
Yeah,
so I didn't
exactly.
wish. I go, he's gonna kill him at some point, right? So when I saw him, and I went, "He's the murderer." It's him again.
I think
Yeah.
it's worth mentioning also. Red mentioned Gwen, and I think that she's a little worth talking about too.
Yes, thank
Simply
you, because I was
because-
just about to mention Gwen.
Yeah, I feel hesitant to as to how much I can talk about this because her character deals with things that I have not experienced and to an extent literally cannot experience as a dude. So like, I don't know quite
Want
how
me to
much.
do it?
Yeah, you do it. You do it.
All right.
I thought it was good, is what I'll say, and then you do
Yes.
your thing.
See,
Okay.
like, with like just the paranoia in general, I can kind of relate to that, but
Yeah.
I'll let Red have the floor here.
Okie dokie. All right. Well, first, I would just like to bring up that her general appearance, I thought she was a lounge singer at first. I was wrong. So, for everyone who does not know or may not see it immediately on screen, we can go inside of their minds, nightmares.
Mhm.
And we go inside of hers and we find out that not only because she keeps getting paranoid about somebody following her the entire time. She keeps saying someone's following me and she's repeating this over and over and you're wondering why she's doing it. And then you find out that she was sexually assaulted by a family member, right? They kind of implied that.
They try to be cryptic about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah, but they
didn't
kind of
actually
made it
spend that detail.
obvious.
Yeah, it's very clearly abuse in some level.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
very severe abuse.
yeah. I was thinking it was of sexual nature just by the language that they used.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
same.
it seemed to be of a sexual nature, and it seemed to be that she was trying to protect her sister,
Yeah.
who was
So very
was it-
likely a family member.
yeah. So maybe like a father, an uncle, but they were always lingering. Like in the nightmare itself, it's all gray and such, and they're lingering in the doorway. And when you go in there as the spooky captain, you try to talk to her and you say, "No, it's okay. You're safe." And she goes, "I can see them in the doorway." And you go, "Okay, well," and you try to reassure her that everything's going to be fine.
Mhm. That was a really good scene.
That
It
was
The framing and just the
Yes.
shadow in the doorway the
Yes.
whole time. Just man, that was good
Yeah.
stuff.
Just
It
just
was
the visions where you get to read into the life stories of Daryl and Gwen.
Mhm.
They were
Yeah,
very
Daryl's
late
was
in the
great,
game,
too.
but they were wonderful.
Yeah,
that was my favorite part of the game, and I wanted so much more of that.
yeah.
Yeah, I wanted
Yeah,
to
I
see.
thought that was weird. That was the only time they did that sort of thing. Was just for
I-
those two characters.
I wanted all of it. I just wanted all of the characters to have those moments, but we just didn't get
Yeah.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I for what it's worth, I actually think that it does make sense because those are the only two characters who I feel are just genuinely that disturbed but still have hope. So, like everyone else, they have sort of a more mundane problem that isn't just one big trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
those two characters have an event that they need to overcome.
Hmm.
Whereas, the two villains are hopeless.
Yeah.
And people like Alton and Sue just kind of have an overarching issue that's like, well, this is something I just have to live with, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that they used it conservatively because it made it more special. But
Right.
Gwen's stuff broke my heart. The fact that you have to
Yeah.
the fact that you have to pretend to be their loved ones in both scenes is also
Man.
Yeah.
it's very Majora's Mask.
Oh, seriously.
So
Oh, yeah.
it's very,
Oh yes.
it's very sad, very very sad, but really effective. I again, the storytelling was phenomenal in this game, and that's a really good example. So
Agreed.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's good stuff.
I also just have to note quickly too that Quella and why am I forgetting his name? We were just talking about
Daryl.
the guy who's Daryl. Yeah, Quella and Daryl's relationship, like just their kind of connection over what had happened and stuff by the end, just made me really really happy.
It's very sweet. Yeah, again, like Quayla is my favorite character. I guess to finish this section that we've been going on forever, I'll talk about why I love her so much. I love the fact that she's like, it's weird. Like this kind of character, it's so easy to do it completely wrong because she's kind of the epitome of like she could be a Mary Sue very easily, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because she's very pure-hearted. She's the kindest person on the ship by far. She actually will literally sacrifice herself in a completely in vain attempt to save someone else's life.
Oh, right.
And she's the only one who does anything like that. Because, like in the end, you know, Donovan, if you completely fail as an investigator, Donovan basically defaults to, okay, well, it's a white male. So just to be safe, I'm going to kill every white male. Which is like, I believe, 4 people on that ship. So normally 2 innocent people would die, but Quayla tries to save Daryl, and in the process, she gets shot. Now, it would be really easy to portray this character as a Mary Sue, but I get it. You know, like just between the cancer, the way that she talks, the way that she interacts with people, the fact that her special ability is literally to listen to the tone of people's voices and just kind of understand what they're feeling and what they're going through. I don't know. I feel like she's a very genuine and very inspirational portrayal of someone who is terminally ill.
Dying.
Yes, like she is very in tune with people's suffering. She savors every moment. She really feels like, you know, like I have to do good things with the time that I have, and I feel like that comes from a very genuine place, a very sad place, but it's something that I don't know, like I've seen in people who that have been in my life that knew they were gonna die.
I love how they introduced that by having her sort of initially seem carefree, because it's like, what are you doing? I'm a writer. I'm just writing. How are you getting paid? I don't know. I'm just writing right now. I'm just writing, and I don't make any money from it, but whatever. And like it's over time you realize that she's writing because she doesn't have any other time left to write, and this is just sort of her chasing that dream among other things. And I love that reveal, because you think initially like, oh, so she's like a hippie who just like quit her job and is just you know making money writing, but she has no idea how to make money. And then suddenly like you realize, oh, that's why she's doing it now. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's there's a lot of bait and switch with Quayla, especially. Like I remember audibly gasping when she just very casually said it's cancer. Like she clearly came to terms with it to some extent. When you read her mind, it's obvious that she's maybe not in like to terms with it, which I think is very realistic, because you're never really a dead man walking. Like you always kind of have that genuine fear. And again, like I just think that she was such a damn good portrayal of it.
Well, that's the weird thing. Like, I really don't like the tone of the game and the way the aesthetics conflict with what the story's trying to do. But I love these characters. I really do think the writing is pretty strong overall. It just completely clashes with what you're seeing and what you're hearing.
Definitely.
The writing and character development was definitely the star of the show, I think.
Yes,
which is good, because
definitely.
the game is to a large extent writing on that. Some other stuff got in the way, but yeah, that part of it was great.
Yeah, the narrative was the focus, and thankfully they got that very well done.
Yes, definitely.
So, on the opposite side of the coin, were there any crew members that you felt unsure about for much of the game?
Ferdinand?
Because we've talked about how the game is really good at humanizing them, but were there any characters that you didn't know how to feel about at first?
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand.
Well, okay, yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna break from the pack and go with Mercurio because
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Ferdinand
Mercurio.
immediately I get that Ferdinand is a cartoon character who eventually turns out to be important in the story later on, but until you know that he's important, he's basically a joke. He is like, what if Goofy from Disney showed up and ran a boat? So he's not very important. But Mercurio is just somebody I was like, what's your deal? And I could never quite get a handle on what he was up to and what motivated him as a character. I get that he's kind of a shady dude who kind of just did favors for people who left him notes because he needed money, but I never really got a strong motivation for him the way I did for, say, Sue, who did crappy things for money, and I totally get why she did it. So Mercurio is the one guy I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would very strongly agree with that.
Yeah,
I think it's
interestingly
because
enough, he's one of the, let's see, what was it? Like at the end, in the good ending, he thanks Gwen for her part in bringing everything to a close, and she says something about how like he's a selfish person and he's going to keep doing whatever's convenient for him. So like she appreciates it, but she knows what kind of person he is, and it doesn't mean that much to her.
Yes. Yeah. I just think. Yeah, I actually remember because it really stood out to me, especially since I played through it multiple times. It really stood out to me that when Mercurio was like kind of talking and basically like he actually says to Gwen, "I guess I'm not a good person, am I?" And Gwen is just like, "What do you want me to say? Do you want me to say that you're wrong? Do you want me to reassure you?" Because
He says this when she's tied up, right?
No, this is like after everyone is safe.
Oh yeah.
And Mercurio Mercurio's just like, I don't really know what I want you to say. Anyway, good luck, bye.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like you could tell that he has some guilt, but he's also like, I'm just an awful person, whatever. And I don't think that that's necessarily. I kind of agree with Chris. It's like, what the hell is your deal? Like you're so left, like on the wayside. Like, what the hell is your motivation? Why are you so messed up? You are the only character who is basically as fucked up as the two villains.
Yeah, he did. I mean, talking to him, you do find out that he had a childhood with an abusive father.
Yes.
He just kind of
Yeah.
took the tactic of keeping his head down and doing whatever he needed to get by. So, like, it makes sense to an extent that, like, given an opportunity to do something that would benefit himself, he would do it and not bother making a deal out of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It seems like he's also just kind of one of those people who became what messed him up in the first place,
Which is interesting in and of itself.
I think too was a little moment where you get to play as Donovan. Did anyone read all of the books in his bookshelf?
Yes.
Yes.
He's a madman.
He's very selfishly motivated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because you bring up the comparison with Shu, and I think there's a bit of a distinction there that Mercurio is a little bit more self-centered when it comes to what he wants his
Yes.
end goal to be.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you look at Sue and it's like you think that she's totally selfish, but she has a lot of remorse, especially if you get the worst ending. But she has a conscience. She just genuinely, in her heart of hearts, doesn't see another way out of her situation. Whereas Mercurio is just like, man, fuck
Whatever.
all these people.
Yeah, he's not looking for one.
Yeah, no, he's not looking for that's a good way of putting it. He's not looking for a better answer.
He's very single-minded. He's almost entirely one track, and he wants to achieve his goals no matter what. Everyone else be damned.
Mm-hmm. And again, I think that that's kind of fine in and of itself. I guess that if he had more dialogue, he might be better. I don't know.
Yeah, I felt like they really missed an opportunity with that.
Right, because he's also, along with Ferdinand and Donovan, one of the characters you can't fully possess, so I guess it's just up to the observer.
I guess that's okay in its own way. Like, like some people will never reveal their true selves to anyone because they're just that guarded. I feel like maybe he's a portrayal of that.
Maybe.
Yeah, because we do see a bit of Donovan's true colors in the endings, and in one of the endings we do see a little bit of Ferdinand's, but I guess with Mercurio, that kind of plays to his character, that he just keeps his head down low. That even in the end, you still only know what he wants you to know about him.
Mm-hmm.
Or what you snoop around and find.
Oh, right. But for the most part, the game did very, very well with humanizing everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Except for
Now,
Ferdinand.
I do want to get.
Should we talk with
right,
Ferdinand
yeah,
or just get to
Ferdinand.
this?
We've that's a question later on.
Yeah.
Ferdinand and Garv both.
So, getting back to, I think this was something Chris touched upon about Donovan. I want to know what everybody thought about Donovan in particular, because I think the game kind of sways back and forth with how it wants to portray him. That at first he seems like a possible antagonist, but then all of a sudden you find out he's a Fed. But then with the ending, does he go too far?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that to an extent depends on the ending, but, yeah.
Yes, he went too far.
Well,
I mean, I
he
get
had
it.
an end game.
Yes.
Yeah. Now that I
And
think
he
about
was
it,
fired, right? He was fired or let go.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you can ask him to see, like, can I see your badge? And he's just,
He
no.
says no.
yeah.
And-
So
Yeah, he doesn't
Yeah.
have one, I can tell.
So- this is his last case, the case that possibly killed his lover, right?
Yes.
That's what we all came
Implied,
to
yeah.
It's implied lover death.
Mm.
So to him, this is his last hurrah. There's no. It's one of those. It's used a lot in cop drama and a lot of, and
Yeah.
it's based on a lot of true events where
Yes.
cops will get obsessed with that one last case and that one last killer to the point where they will either die chasing the killer by being killed by said killer, or they'll kill themselves once they find out their purpose is complete. So,
A blaze of glory either way.
Yeah.
yeah. Or in his case, just kind of, my purpose is done. Don't need to exist.
Yeah.
Self-determination.
Yeah.
It's understandable why they used him as the red herring at first because,
Oh, yeah.
like
He's
his
a creepy
Baby
dude.
guy in leather
yeah.
jacket.
Yeah, exactly.
With
He's-
Elvis hair.
and because
His-
of his job, he's got the surveillance equipment, and he's all like angry and given up on everything. So his thoughts, of
Yes.
course, seem like the kinds of thoughts that would be in someone who killed a bunch of people on a boat. So it's
Yes.
And it freaked Gwen out. Wait, I just
Yeah.
realized something. Gwen freaked out because she saw all the cameras. I know she freaked out because she saw the cameras because she thought he was watching her. What if that had a second layer to it with the whole being... Oh, God. My brain just went to a bad place.
What is in
Okay.
him actually being perverted?
Well, no, like her bad nightmare place with Gwen. She says they're always watching, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if whoever was doing that to her and her sister set up cameras?
Yeah. That's a common thing.
And what if
Mm.
they used cameras when they were doing whatever
Is
they were
it?
doing? Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I mean, it's a hypothetical and it's going a little bit over, but I was wondering about that. If
That's one way to think about it, yeah.
The general theme of watching.
Yeah, just wigged her out.
Well, and
Mm.
it's when you're in a situation like she's in, it is this kind of constant, like, just always afraid that
Paranoia.
what you escaped from is going to come back to you. So that's
Yeah.
On that note, I did think we haven't really talked about the mind reading all that much, but a lot of just the visuals with those, I think, do a really good job of furthering the characterization.
I wish they took it to another level and had different ones for different parts of the game to show you sort of like
Yeah,
their mind
because they
right now.
they just change the text every now and then.
yeah.
Right. And I wish it was like, oh, it's everything's calm and cool, and we're gonna read her mind and find out what she feels right now. And now we know there's been murders and what's going on. Let's see what everyone feels about the murders. But you don't really get that. It's just sort of the same graphical representation of their overall personality. But that said, I do love that mechanic. I love being able to take a peek in someone's mind, and I wish it was used more. But I love that it's there to begin with. So
Yes.
On a more humorous note, did anybody try to read the cat's mind?
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
I want to eat that bird.
Meow, meow, meow.
Yeah, I went with the bird.
I thought that was something that was really funny about that is like when you first get that power, it's like obviously the first thing you're gonna do with it is read the cat's mind because he's right there.
Yeah, my
That's,
first reaction was, Kitty,
Yep.
what are you thinking?
I thought that was pretty funny.
And
Aid
the cat's
me.
thoughts actually made more sense than Ferdinand's, so that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was actually gonna say, I don't want to go too in depth with this, but as soon as I tried to read his mind, I was like, he's the killer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a really good segue. to the next question here, which is who did you first think was the murderer?
Ferdinand.
At first I thought it was Ferdinand, and then I thought it was Ferdinand, and then it was Ferdinand.
You know,
It's-
someday there's going to be a murder story that introduces you to like the Donovan type character who's obviously a red herring, and then just actually
Yes.
has him be the murderer. But
Probably.
no, it's just
Ferdinand.
No, Ferdinand.
See, I've played enough. I've read and played enough bad fiction that I just assumed it was going to be Donovan, just because like, all right, we're doing this. All right, it's going to be this guy. Let's just get this over with. Because for whatever reason, I was assuming the game was about half as long as it was, and it was just going to be Donovan, and the whole game was figuring out how to trap Donovan. And then no, it wasn't, which made me happy. But I was like,
Yes.
it's going to be Donovan, and then it wasn't. So good for this game.
Mhm.
Yeah, see, one way or another, I guess I haven't seen enough bad mystery stories because, like, I know that theoretically, you know, characters like Donovan exist because you expect someone like that to be the murderer, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen anything where Donovan's character type is the murderer. They all
Watch
Yeah,
they
more
all
Law
exactly.
do
and
something
Order.
else. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
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 See, I was going to say that this kind of goes against the majority here, but initially I thought, Ferdinand would be a little too obvious. I was actually a little bit suspicious of Gwen at the start of the game.
Oh, really?
I'm actually
Yeah.
amazed at how
Yes.
many people are saying Ferdinand, because I really genuinely thought he was comic relief. And maybe that just speaks to how dopey I am, but I thought like, did you know that salmon is a kind of fish? Like that's the sort of shit he would say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you're supposed to be like, that's nice, Ferdinand, go back and do the boat stuff and let me solve the murders. And I thought for some
Yeah.
reason that was what the game was doing, was making a comic relief character that wasn't very
Yes.
funny.
Yeah.
But apparently I was wrong.
Yeah, you know
Admittedly,
what
I should say I didn't like immediately as soon as I read his mind think it was him. It's like by the time I had any theories crystallizing, I was thinking it was him.
Yeah.
It wasn't super obvious to me, but yeah.
I will say, like,
I had initially assumed that Gwen might have had a little bit of part in it, and that does become relevant in Chapter 4. That's about where I started thinking, okay, it can't be Gwen if they're making this part of a turning point in the story.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
But
feeling
for the reasons
really
they bring
bad
up,
that I didn't see
she's
this coming.
reclusive,
No.
paranoid,
No,
keeps a
don't feel
freaking
bad.
axe in her room.
Yes. You know what?
Yeah.
So
You don't keep weapons in your room? I keep weapons in my
I have
room.
a sword, but
I have a bow and I have a sword and a
That's
gun
I always-
someday, but
Towards the end of the game, I was thinking it was either Garv or Donovan that were gonna be the obvious murderers. And once Donovan was out of the picture, it was like, okay, it's gonna be either Garv or it's gonna be what's his face? I can't remember the guy. Mercurio. Like I was like, those are gotta be that's gotta be it. It never occurred to me that Ferdinand was the murderer, and I feel really dumb.
That's
No, no.
interesting that
Don't
you
feel
suspected Garv, though, because Garv is the one who completely caught me by surprise.
Yes, he got
Yeah.
me by surprise too. But
The
with
dude's a
Ferdinand-
weird, creepy, like, I don't care about the law, let me bring my pets on a boat, also I hate my wife. Like, he's weird.
see, I have someone down the road that acts like that, and
Yeah.
he just had an entire house filled with snakes, but he's just a normal guy.
I don't think that makes him a normal guy.
He bred snakes, and all the kids around the neighborhood was going, "Oh man, he breeds snakes! How cool!" And I was going, "I'm gonna stay away from his house."
look at my snack.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I like between all the other characters who had similar, bad things happen to me, and now I feel this way about it. Things feeling bitter about a marriage that went wrong was like an understandable. I could understand that in concept. So I didn't really think of him as being particularly strange in comparison, I suppose.
Yeah.
I didn't either, really.
After you have Daryl talk with Garv, that's when I started to think, like, I thought that he conspired with the killer in like a really simple way, just because like he was evidently detached from humanity.
Yeah.
But that was it. I didn't expect full-blown frickin' human trafficking. Like when that came up, I was
Me
just
neither.
like, is that? Like when I saw that, I was like, okay, is this Garv? What the hell is happening?
That's actually also
Um,
the first time we've mentioned human trafficking. So, surprise to anyone who's listening and hasn't played the game, that's what was going on.
Surprise!
Yeah. Well, that's
Insert
half of
party
what's going
horn
on.
sound effect
Right, yeah.
here.
But, oh,
See, that I
in the
think.
background. Doot, 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 doot,
Yeah.
doot, doot, doot.
thankfully, thank God they didn't play that music. The
Do,
music
do,
that
do,
they
do,
did
do,
play
do,
actually
do.
scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But
Do, do,
oh,
do.
I actually wanted to say with Ferdinand, I just wanted to say like there are two things that made me immediately think like, okay, it's you, and like this is something that I thought in chapter 1, and it's like really like it's subtle. I felt like it was like trying to do this, and like that's why like I only came to this conclusion because I kind of recognized what they were trying to portray kind of immediately just as a psychopath, because I've seen a lot of psychopaths in writing. The way that he thinks and the way that he talks, the fact that you can't read his thoughts for all intents and purposes, the fact that the way that he talks is so odd and fake and uncomfortable, and like everyone said, like, oh, it's silly. The thing with me that kind of stood out to me was nothing else was silly. This character is full-blown cartoony, and there's a reason for it. It's not because it's like, oh, it's a silly little game. Like, everyone else talks like a real person. He's pretending to be a real person. He doesn't have emotions.
Took the words right out of my mouth on that one.
Yeah.
See, I was going to say, since our next question is about Ferdinand, the reveal that he is the serial killer, and who expected that early on and why, one little detail, what got me to realize that it was probably going to be Ferdinand, was by the time I got to be able to possess Donovan, I felt compelled to interact with the cat as every character. I don't know if anybody else did this, but when you interact with the cat as Ferdinand, the cat bites his hand.
Yep.
That's the only character the cat isn't friendly with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the only character that threatens the cat. He
weird.
threatens to, remember he threatens to kick him.
Huh.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
everybody knows what serial killers do to animals.
Yeah. No, like, in his mind, no one's watching. It's not like the cat can say anything. Like, that was another big, like, revealing thing.
I immediately talked to Ferdinand as the cat. That was the first thing that I did. One of the first things. I talked to everyone as the cat.
Yeah.
I was going, I'm a
But-
cat now. Let's go.
Meow, 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 meow.
But, yeah, no, Ferdinand is, I thought it was, oh, and the second thing that made it confirm in my mind was how he wanted to handle Donovan on his own, and I'm just like, you're the killer.
hmm
He's trying to find you. But yeah, no, like I don't know, maybe it's just years of playing Ace Attorney and watching Law and Order. I don't know, dude. But I just felt like, okay, like you're trying to portray a complete, actual, literal psychopath. And I felt like that was fairly obvious. But that's only because I obsess with media like that.
I think another giveaway was at one point Donovan, doesn't he mention that the killer is a sadist?
Mm-hmm.
hmm
I think so.
Yeah, I seem to remember Donovan saying something like that, and then immediately I thought, oh, well, the happiest person on this ship is Ferdinand.
When you guys controlled Ferdinand, did anybody do the multiple announcements in a row thing?
I did.
Oh
also
no,
show it was an
actually.
achievement.
Yeah, because there's an achievement.
Did you know
But
that
I did-
hearing the same word over and over again will make it lose its meanings? Here, let me demonstrate. Pickles. Pickles. Pickles, 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 pickles.
Yep.
But that was actually one of the first inklings I had for him, because that as
Really?
soon as because I was going, exactly what MC said. I go, yeah, you don't talk like a person that is a person. I mean, I know how socially awkward people act because I can be socially awkward and I talk to nerds all the time.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
that's normal. But the way he acts, it's not socially awkward. It's socially fake. I've
Yes.
been around that
He's
kind of like,
impersonating. He's impersonating humanity.
You guys are making me feel like I'm a sociopath, and I'm not.
No.
Chris is our Ferdinand.
We've solved
If
the
we
mystery
are-
of Why Are We Dead at podcast.
No.
If we all wind up dead, you guys know who did it.
I'm just saying, like, Ferdinand always struck me as just a comic book character. Like he's the kind of guy like you would never ever put him in charge, and then once he got control of the mic on the boat, he'd be like, "When pizza is on a bagel, you can have pizza anytime."
Oh
and
my
everyone's like,
God.
"Ferdinand, put that down! Stop it!" And like, I never got the inclination that he was a crazy murderer. I just
Yes.
got like he was
The
like
only-
just not there and just sort of a cartoon doofus.
I'm gonna tell you why you shouldn't feel bad about it.
Oh no.
The only reason why we were all suspicious of it was because of the context. Whereas, like maybe you like because of the art style and the presentation, maybe you kind of looked at it like okay, this game isn't necessarily serious all the time.
Yeah,
which I could totally understand because
well,
there
that's
was
part of it. Like the whole Earthbound thing, I thought just like, oh, this is the comic relief dude.
Yeah, but
I'm sure you did have a bigger disconnect there than the rest
exactly.
of the games.
Whereas with the rest of us, we all just kind of said like, okay, this is serious. This is real life. The art style has no bearing on that. This guy's fucking nuts. He's not silly. He's insane.
Okay, if you look past the metaphor of the visuals and interpret it as like a literal boat, yes, the guy who was second in command, ignoring the fact that the captain was gone for more than 24 hours on a boat that's only like 6 rooms big, is probably not the best guy to be in charge. But I was just coming at it from more of a, I guess, genre perspective.
Yeah, and that's fine. But I don't know. We just all got a different vibe. We just all got the vibe of like, like everything has a message to it, and nothing is what it initially seems. So we were all really suspicious of him. I think that's all it is.
I am the worst detective.
Don't ride any boats.
That's all.
By the way, just a little detail on the topic of Ferdinand. To anyone that got the worst possible ending, where Donovan just straight up kills half the passengers, did anyone notice that Ferdinand in Latin says "the play is over, applause"?
Yep.
What? Sheesh.
Like,
that was one of my favorite parts of that ending.
I think he's the last person Donovan shoots before himself, and then just his reaction is just with that grin on his face, just saying the play is over, applause.
My least favorite part of that is that Donovan shoots himself. Like, I get why in the terms of like he's grieving, but like, why?
Because he knows that he would go to jail for life anyway in every single outcome.
That's true.
I guess, but I don't know.
Well, he's operating without a badge.
Also, probably
so technically he is committing murder.
Yeah.
And he's a federal officer that's going to be probably going to federal prison.
Yes.
It's an unfortunate. Like, there's obviously no scenario in which case that's a good thing for him to do or a good ending. But I get it. It sucks and it's sad, but for the character, I get it.
Yes, it makes sense. You just wish that you could talk him out of it. But one last thing about Ferdinand. He's the only character who ever smiles in the entire cast and the entire game. That was another thing that took me off.
Wow.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that because of the minimalistic sprites.
Yeah, he's the only one. Also, when he rips off his mustache and reveals himself to you, his eyes widen, and it's really disturbing. Yeah.
Okay, and now I'm legitimately creeped out because I never noticed that.
Horrifying. When I noticed it immediately because I just looked at his eyes and his face and the fact that he again, it's like minimal animation and he just doesn't have he's holding his fake mustache and it's like, Christ, man. It really that got into my head. That was like the one moment the minimalist art style actually scared the shit out of me for some reason. Because he also has smaller eyes than everyone else.
Beady little eyes.
Yes, but his eyes go wide when he talks about, the fact that he killed people and the fact that he's excited that Donovan is taking out his anger on him. Because I feel like that's a little moment of Ferdinand being like, you're not so different from me. You just want to hurt me. You're just angry. You don't even know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't have any evidence. Because in the ending where Donovan figures out that he's a serial killer but doesn't figure out everything, he's just like, you don't know what's really happening. You just want to hurt someone. And Ferdinand is really happy about that. It's like, hey, you're like me.
Well, speaking of the endings, we did touch upon this a little bit earlier, but let's talk about Garv now.
Best villain 2016. Genuinely disturbing character.
Yeah.
Right. Because the first ending I got was where all the evidence pins Ferdinand to the wall. None of it touched Garv.
Yeah.
So I just assumed, okay, well, I found the serial killer. There we go. And then come to find out, this game has multiple endings. Well, what else could there be to find? Oh, wait, it's a human trafficking experiment. Okay, who's behind it? Oh, it's the nice old man who's just a little bit nihilistic.
I think that's the thing that, I guess he really stood out as strange to Chris, but for me, Garv came across as like disturbed and troubled person, but just a fairly normal person, more nihilistic and negative about stuff than I would think, perhaps to an unhealthy degree, but fairly normal, which I think was intentional for this. Like, that's part of why it's so disturbing, is that even in real life, so much of this stuff happens just with normal people that you would never suspect.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's definitely like why I like him as a villain so much, because I've always liked villains who legitimately have a point when they say, you're not that different from me. Don't act all high and mighty. Because a lot of villains say that when they're just breaking down, going crazy, and they don't have a point. Garv has a point, because like throughout the course of this story, half the cast are selfish, nihilistic monsters who don't think about anything or any of the consequences of what they're actually doing until it's like too late. Like the fact, like when he says that, like he legitimately has a point, looking at Mercurio and Sue, Ferdinand, and to a lesser extent Donovan, of just like you people think that you have the right to do all these horrible things just because it benefits you. Don't act like you're so high and mighty. Like Donovan, who's sort of the hero of the story, will, legitimately, just for the sake of his own consciousness, kill two completely innocent men, and in the process an innocent woman who's trying to save one of them, just to basically clear his own consciousness before he kills himself. And yeah, that's not noble. It's literally just, I want to feel good when I kill myself, so I'm going to kill this young college kid and this depressed middle-aged guy.
I'm weirded out that I'm the only one that picked up on, like, what do? I'm a wholesaler. I pick up goods from one place and I move them to where they're profitable, and then I sell
Takes
them.
on a whole new meaning.
It's a very simple business. Like, I'm like, okay, you are evil, and everyone else is like, the cartoonish guy that's bouncing off the walls is the evil guy, and I'm like, really?
Oh no, it's like me, just me. I was like, oh well, this paranoid lady. Yeah,
so it's the
I've got my eye on her.
So it's the exact so with Chris, it's the exact opposite, and he was suspicious of the guy that we all assumed was just a normal ass dude.
Yeah.
I love that.
I don't like women, and I don't like governments, and I don't like people trying to tell me what to do for a job. Also, don't trust marriage, and I'm Garv, and that was what I got from him, and I'm like,
so 80% of the people on the internet.
This dude is angry and mean, and I don't like him. And Garv was like immediately like at the top of my list.
So
like I thought he was the murderer for a while.
I will say that I genuinely got the impression that he was messed up because of the cat, actually.
Cat people can't kill people. Come on.
No.
I'll just hide my body.
He's not nice to the cat.
Oh yeah.
In chapter 1, like he's really like mean to the cat, like berates the hell out of him.
Okay, to be fair.
I know, but I felt like that was a very suspicious moment, because I think that the way that you treat animals when no one is watching says like everything there is to know about a person. Because like in every other scene when he's nice to the cat, it's like he's walking around in public, but when you're just talking to him as the cat in his room, he's like, look at you, you stupid fucking hairball. You got like I have to clean your shit again. Is there anything even happening in that little tiny brain of yours? Probably not.
Man, I don't know if I saw that.
Yeah, no,
I don't think I talked to him while I was in the room.
Yeah, that
I
was
think
like
I may have done that the first time I played through the game, but I didn't think it would become that important because it was only the second time I went through that I was suspicious of Garv.
Yeah, that stood out to me because he was so nice to people's face outside of that, except with Daryl, where he felt like, oh, Daryl, he's like me, he's hopeless. Whereas with Daryl, he was hopeless, but he didn't blame anyone else but himself. He wasn't like full blown, like fuck people. Like Daryl was just depressed. He blamed himself for his own mistakes. And that entire thing is essentially what tricked Garv into thinking that Daryl was just as selfish and hopeless as him. That's why he kind of revealed that stuff, because it was Daryl who figured out that Garv was effectively, didn't care about humanity. Those little subtle things, that's all this game is. So I really liked them.
Yeah.
So I really...
And I think it's interesting that each of us, we've mentioned at least on 2 occasions that each of us picked up on something that I don't think the others noticed.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed the game overall. I just wish that the graphics and the music were more in tone with what the narrative is trying to do. Like, I could totally get on the vibe of the kid-friendly perspective of a kid version of this story that the graphics and the music try to tell, and I could totally get in tune with the actual like adult, serious, character-driven, human trafficking and murder, cancer death, reality sucks, grimdark version of what the narrative is trying to do. I just feel like they never met, and that to me is the one failing the game really has. Because other than that, well, I take that back. The 2 failings the game has are, one, that disconnect between the graphics, music, and then the narrative, and the other thing is the cornucopia of possession options to progress in any given part of the game. I mean, we've all made mention of the fact that we've had to reference a walkthrough at different points in the game, and the fact that there is probably, I don't know the exact number, but probably about 9 characters overall. 9, maybe 12, something like that. And then you could half possess them or fully possess them, which doubles that number, because sometimes you have to half possess somebody to get the answer you need, and talk to a specific person half possessed as somebody half possessed or fully possessed to make progress. And that's the other problem, is it is navigating a super opaque conversation tree to make progress, and that kind of is frustrating sometimes. But other than that, I really, really, really love what this game is trying to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, like the ease of the ease of life stuff needs some work, but beyond that, and like just how cryptic it is.
Like they give you the little icon that says you can have more dialogue options, but it's not for story critical dialogue options. It's literally, you have not, as this person in this mode, talked to this person in this mode. That's not the same thing as, hey, you need to talk to this person to progress. If that little yellow exclamation point was for, hey, here's where you need to go to move forward, that alone would save the game, I think, from needing walkthroughs.
Yes.
Yeah. To the game's credit, they do include Paulo, but that's only good the first 3 chapters.
Yeah, and the first 3 chapters are easier than the actual conclusion in chapter 4, where you don't have him anyway.
Exactly. I was about to say, because as I mentioned earlier, chapter 4 was where I started to get confused.
See, the difficult thing is that in a game like this, the whole point of it from a gameplay perspective is to try and figure out who the murderer is. So if you make it too obvious what it is that you need to move forward, it's like a quest in an RPG where they're all like, oh, I don't know where this thing is, and then your mini-map's like, here, go here, there it is. Like, that would kind of ruin it from a gameplay perspective, and for that matter, it's kind of, the game seems to be just kind of about the importance of knowing and understanding people and the struggles that they're going through and stuff like that, and that would also be kind of ruined if the game could just come down to, this is what you need to say to get what you want and move on. But with how freeform it is, without some other kind of direction, it becomes so difficult to actually do. Like, there is a specific it's not just about finding stuff out, there's a specific thing you have to do, and there's so many options, and it becomes more difficult than it could be. But if you make it too easy, it would kind of ruin it, and it's a tough one to figure out, I think, exactly how it could have fixed some of its problems. But
right, I think
balancing,
as Red suggested, maybe doing like sort of still images during some of the cutscenes to better display the facial expressions of the different characters. That would have been a good improvement.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like
there's that artist Tea and Jellybeans who made that really killer artwork of all the characters. Maybe they should employ them next time.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's in the chat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, this is like the only fan art I've seen of this entire game ever.
I went on Tumblr, there's like nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's really sad.
Yeah, it's like, I think the only analysis video I've seen of this game was the review that Nitro Red did of it. Yeah, that's actually where I discovered this game.
He is the one and only guy, and that video has like 10,000 views, and I feel like possibly less than 10,000 people played this game.
Yeah.
Like, I still have my issues with it, but I feel like it deserves a bigger audience because
Definitely.
Yeah.
it has problems. Don't get me wrong, but I really think it deserves a bigger audience than it got.
Yeah, the stuff that's good is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to say what we could do is just, look back to the Newgrounds game that was based on, and there is a huge leap in quality between the two.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's kind of the sad thing about games. Like personally, I would tend to take a game like this that's flawed but interesting and unique and does something you won't find in most games over, the most polished, perfect,
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
traditional
Absolutely.
game ever. Like, I love both of those things, but I mean, I love stuff like this, and it always gets a smaller audience than it deserves, and that makes me sad.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
but-
this gives us tons of stuff to talk about, though, right? Like
Yeah.
a polished game would be like, this is a really good game. Yep, thumbs up. Yeah, it's a great game. Whereas
Yeah.
this is like, well, here's how it doesn't work, but I also love all this awesome stuff that it does,
Yeah.
and that
yes.
it's really cool. I really didn't necessarily enjoy my playthrough of it, but I love talking about it, and that more than anything makes it a really, really cool game for me. Like, I love
Yes.
games that make me want to talk about them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is a good choice, kid. I guess.
Yeah.
It's
And
such,
it is not
it's-
expensive, so any of you listeners who think it might be cool, go get it.
It's $4.99.
Yeah, you can get it for like $1 during one of the Steam sales.
Oh yeah.
I did.
It's honestly fun to just possess everyone and talk to everyone as everyone just to get all that information about all these characters because they're just that deep.
Yeah, because I think that's
Yeah.
the real selling point of the writing is it's so good that you don't have to go through like all the different possession options and talk to people because you're obligated to because the game wants you to solve the mystery, but more so you're
want
motivated
to.
to know more about the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to learn about all of these characters. It's just, it's interesting, and I don't want to say it's entertaining because that's kind of messed up, but we get to kind of pry into their lives and just figure what makes them tick. Why are they the way they are?
Yeah.
And it's really just, it's so juicy and really good, and I want so much more from this game.
I would
Yeah.
go so far as to say that like that is the not only the best part of the game, but like I would argue that is the how do I phrase this? Like it is the part of the game I want to see more of, and I don't really care about the murder mystery. Like the murder mystery is the reason the story exists, and that's great, but the character exploration stuff is the strength of this game.
Yes.
And I don't really care about Ferdinand the wacky dude is a murderer. I don't care. I want to learn more about Zoo, and I want to learn more about all the different characters and why they do these bad things and what their relationships and interrelationships are. Like that is interesting. And the human trafficking murder stuff is just sort of the framing device for a bunch of really cool character development. And if you can deal with that, if you can deal with the fact that the murder mystery is sort of the framing device for a bunch of cool character stuff, I think this game is actually really good. It's just if you buy into the murder mystery as the driving thing, then you're going to be like, oh, I got to possess this guy to get the good ending, and
Yeah.
that's the part that sucks.
That is such a video gamey mistake too. Like I could not tell you how many games I've played where I just went like, man, this would have been so much better if they just got rid of the, big dangerous plot or whatever. I mean, I was actually talking on Twitter a bit ago with someone about how Rise of the Tomb Raider could have been better without the antagonists. Halo 4, man, really screwed that up. Like, that's a very common thing. Like, there's this feeling that there has to be a really big thing, when really the little stuff ends up being what makes it the best, and it would have been better if it was just that. I did like the murder mystery in this case, but, like, I would love a game that's just more about talking to and getting to know these characters.
I think that there's definitely a benefit to that, and I enjoy a few things like that. Now, what you're describing are basically only visual novels and a couple point-and-click games, and nothing else that I've ever played.
Yeah, but even those, some of them. Okay, I'm going to use a recent game that I reviewed, Steins Gate. Steins Gate, everybody loves Steins Gate. Everybody loves Steins Gate. But there are so many things that if you mess it up minorly, it's like, okay, well, time to go back 30 hours of game or 20 hours of gameplay. Have fun. And it's like, oh, you didn't quick save? Too bad.
Yeah. Speaking as someone who's making a game like that, that's way longer than Steins Gate. I basically have like 3 lists of variables where you can fuck up a certain amount of times past a certain threshold, so it's not like you have to make everything perfect. But and I'm basically just gonna leave a message in there saying just have multiple files or you're gonna hate yourself.
Yeah, I think this game also kind of
A
tried
disclaimer.
this game also kind of tried to fix that by making it so that more often than not, if you don't have the information you need, you can like there's that one way to lock you out of a certain ending or something, but generally, if you're lacking certain information, then you can still get it.
Yes, you can only lock yourself out of the worst endings, and I think that that's an okay compromise.
Yeah, well, when you say it like that, yeah, that's good.
Still,
But yeah,
I would love to see like a version of this game where you play as Alton and not as a ghost that possesses Alton, but just like as Alton dealing with his own self-loathing. Like that would be a really cool game to be like this rich dude on a boat that like doesn't need to be there, but he's there anyway, and everyone else is like there because they have to be there because they need to eat, and like everyone kind of hates you and you have to deal with that self-loathing. Or alternately deal with like being someone like Sue who's like on the boat because she needs to eat, and then you see Alton and it's like Alton's this jackass where you're kind of attracted to him, but also he doesn't need to be there, so screw him. Why is he on this boat? Like all of that stuff is the stuff that really works, and I love those parts of this game. And it's the murder mystery stuff that I think is the weakest parts.
Oh, I actually wanted to say one thing about that. I might be in the minority here, but I kind of think that just because of the theming of, like the overarching theme of the game is kind of, it's a very basic one, just people will always surprise you. There's always more going on with people than you initially think. And I mean, it's obviously the most extreme conclusion you can come to with a murder mystery with human trafficking, but I kind of feel like it's relevant to the themes. Again, like you guys said, it's ultimately just a framing device for how interesting the characters are. But I think it's a very powerful final moment of, people will always surprise you. You will never fully you can try to understand people as much as you want, but there's always going to be something about them that surprises you that you don't see coming. And I think that was very true of Garv, especially. Slightly less for like Ferdinand. Like every single one of us, whether or not we suspected someone, every one of us playing was surprised by at least someone.
Yeah.
So
this is true.
I think that the outcome and the ending and the fact that Garv in particular and Ferdinand, because a lot of people, I think that a lot of people like Chris would not see Ferdinand coming, but be suspicious of Garv, whereas a lot of us were suspicious of Ferdinand, but didn't really see Garv coming. I think
to a lesser extent with Donovan, how the game isn't clear if it wants him to be an antagonist or an anti-hero.
Yeah. And I like that. I think that the way that it was all framed around that mystery and that really dark conclusion, I think that it works really well. So that's my opinion.
Overall, I think definitely what everybody said here. I don't know what I can add to that. That very, very perfectly summarizes my opinion of the game. Although I think I go with a little bit more on MC's side of this, that I think the surprise element to the story was really its strong point, and it kept the murder mystery from feeling too shoehorned in.
Yeah, I think it worked really well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we can all unanimously agree that the writing was definitely the strongest part of this game.
Absolutely, yes.
Is
Cool
good.
peeps.
Which is good because that kind of thing is a lot of what we tend to talk about here. So,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, any other final thoughts on the game then, or?
Did you know if you repeat the same word over and over, it will lose its meaning? Here, let me demonstrate for you. Symposium, 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 symposium.
Great, thanks for that. Now we've lost all meaning to our listeners.
I brought it up at the beginning, but I still want to reiterate. I love how much this game makes use of its space. I wish more games did that. Like, I love the fact that it really is all on one boat, and it's not a very big boat. Like, that is my favorite thing about this game, is that it's an entire narrative, a mystery murder narrative with multiple antagonists and several cool characters, and it takes place on one kind of small boat. That is really cool. Like, that is my favorite thing about this game. So,
I like how cute Quayla is. She has a really adorable sprite, and she like walks around with this little kind of bounce to her step, and her music is just like funkadelic as hell.
Can we talk about the theme that plays when you possess Donovan then?
It's called Fingerless Gloves. That's the name of the song.
Yes.
It's literally just an 80s action movie theme. It's amazing. I can only picture him like driving a car through the ship and crashing through windows.
Jeez.
Whenever I hear
But
it.
in hindsight, that's kind of how he sees himself.
Yeah, it's really
One man
cool.
on a mission. Ready.
The soundtrack is really cool, as much as, you know, that default theme
at
should
some
have been
point,
used.
at some points, it doesn't align, but when it does,
It's really cool.
The music itself is good, I think, yeah.
I liked it. I give it a human trafficking disaster out of 10.
That's a good rating?
we'll give it a Quella out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's
that makes more sense, yes.
Give
I
it a
mean,
Quella
generally-
and a happy Gwen out of 10.
Yeah. You generally don't say, I like this. I will compare it to human trafficking disasters.
Oh.
I like
Well,
this
no,
dead
the
body over the side out of 10.
How about a failed human trafficking out of 10?
A Garv out of 10. There we go.
That's
I feel
good.
like no human trafficking out of 10 would be better, but I mean,
Okay.
How about a Quella, Gwen, Sue, Alton out of 10?
there you go.
Daryl. Don't forget
And Daryl. And Daryl.
As long as we're not giving it a Ferdinand out of 10.
Not a
Yeah.
Ferdinand. Ferdinand gets left on the boat. Away.
Yeah.
I do kind of like Ferdinand just as, like, it's scary. Just
He's
like,
enjoyable,
that's-
yeah.
Yeah, like in that sense, he's fine. He's Kefka. He's Kefka from
Oh,
Final
gosh.
Fantasy VI. There you go.
Yeah.
You
boy.
scare me. You're not complicated, but you are scary.
Yep.
There is one thing I wanted to mention. We found out about the captain through her log, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish we found out a
know.
little more about her.
I will. Man, I totally forgot to mention
that's-
this.
that's-
I will say I
Yes,
was kind of
that's the
annoyed when
one-
even in the best ending it didn't give any closure or explanation or
No.
anything about you. It just.
Well,
Yeah.
I was amazed that it didn't so much as show her fading away, like seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just these
that's,
kind
that's
of
the
cease.
implication I got was you know,
Yes.
Donovan figures out who the murderer is, who the human trafficker is. I guess you just disappear.
Yeah, it's
But-
like what, you couldn't have made a slightly, like, you earned a little bit of reverence for your ending. You know what I mean? Like, just have a like bittersweet moment of her ascending,
Yeah.
something like that. Like
That was actually the one thing that kind of got me a little angry at the game, because I went, really? We've spent all this time trying to figure out who she is while we're understanding everybody else. We're trying to figure out who she is, and while I know we're supposed to imprint some of ourself onto the ghost, trying to figure out who they are, but it's just, we have all of this info on her, and we have her personality kind of, sort of,
hmm
Yeah.
and yet we don't ascend, we don't do anything, we don't fade into the light, or I don't know, get dragged to hell or something. No, we just cease. We just go boop.
Man, wouldn't that have
Nothing.
been a screwed up ending? Like, good job. You saved as many people as you could. Now you're getting dragged down into hell.
That could have been in the worst possible ending, where you see her get dragged down
hmm
like a Sam
God,
Raimi
just-
movie.
Imagine like an afterlife where it's like, I did a thing, and then you just stop existing.
Yeah.
That'd be really sad. It's just be like, you know what? I'm gonna linger. It's real. It's
Yeah.
funny that I'm playing Dragon Quest IX, and that's exactly how the afterlife works in that game.
Oh, gosh.
There's ghosts everywhere in that game.
Huh.
And you have to like help solve their problems. And it's
I
kind of like that.
love you forever now for mentioning Dragon Quest IX.
Yeah,
Is-
boy.
Is that nuts? Is that the Sentinel of
Yes.
Starry Skies?
Yes.
Yes, it's not the first Dragon Quest game I would recommend, but ooh, it's a good one.
Yeah. Dragon Quest VIII, best game ever made.
Dragon Quest V, you pleb.
Oh well, excuse me.
Come back next month on the Gaming Symposium for a debate between.
Yeah, dude. I've never played 5, so I can't debate that.
Dragon
I
Quest
should.
V is one of the few games that has legitimately brought me to tears.
Aw.
Oh.
Oh. Chris, do an awe. The rest of us did awes. Okay, fine.
Chris, show emotion.
No. He doesn't want
Aw.
to.
We've talked about nihilism for so long that we are now devoid of emotion.
Yeah. How long is this one? That's what I want
It's
to
getting
know.
long. So
Yeah.
It's 2 hours.
it's like an
Yeah.
hour and a half, I think, about at this
Yeah,
point. So
we gave our
yeah.
final thoughts on the game, so
yeah.
what do now?
So, at this point, I would normally hand it over to whoever's.
Oh no!
Why? It's all ruined now. We need to re-record the entire thing.
Okay. So I'm EmceeProphit. I'm the hot one.
So this is normally the point where I would hand it over to whoever's choosing the next game, except that it's my turn to choose the next game. So next month, we're all going to be playing, next month, sorry. This episode got so delayed that next month is like in a week or something. But we're going to be playing Transistor, the game made by Supergiant Games after Bastion. It's a game about a woman and a talking sword thing in a weird sort of cyberpunky sci-fi setting, and that's all I'll say about it. You should all buy it and play it, and then we'll talk about it in a bit.
So in other words, it's the new Xenoblade game that got revealed, but before it was cool.
The main character, the main character of the game is actually Red Angel.
Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah, actually,
It's me.
the main character has the same name, so
That's
not the
pretty
angel,
cool.
but Red, so that's fun.
It's a nice little fun fact.
But anyway, yeah, it's a very visually and audibly beautiful game that I imagine we're going to have a decent amount to talk about, so that should be fun. So you can grab that on Steam or the PS4, and we'll be talking about it. So are there any other messages, any final closing words from anyone here?
I think that you're all precious.
There we
And
go.
hey, listen, it's true. I value all of them, and I need them to know. I value all of you, and I think that you're all very special, and I hope that you never get human trafficked.
That goes for all of us here at the Gaming Symposium. We
I
all
hope
hope
that you
that
don't get
don't get human trafficked.
Man, this is going to go down as the episode where we made human trafficking jokes. Great. Okay.
So if we ever get on a boat, we're gonna specifically not pick the smallest option possible.
True.
Yep.
True.
Okay, if we ever get together on a boat, we're all gonna get like 2 rooms next to each other and like just nail the doors shut.
I'll bring my weapons.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if the first mate looks like Gilligan from Gilligan's Island, that's when we know things are gonna go bad.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
If you bring your weapons, then they're gonna tie you up and leave you in the lounge, dude.
Well, it's okay. One of you will save me, right?
I'll try. Well, then one of us has to die so we can possess everybody
She's
else
the
on the
writer.
ship.
So
Oh wait, I'm the writer. That's right.
You're the writer.
Oh
Okay,
crap!
just-
I'm
I don't
Yeah,
know,
so
just-
you're kind of screwed anyway, I guess.
Yeah, just don't get cancer and you'll be okay.
I'll
I
work
guess
on
that
it.
I guess that that's generally. I guess that that's generally true of everyone. Just don't get cancer and you'll be okay.
Okay, live strong,
Oh,
everybody.
no. Okay.
what is this commentary?
On that note,
It's a game about a dead woman trying to stop human trafficking. It's not a happy subject.
No, it's not. But I love it.
Yeah.
well, after that
Oh,
enlightening
Christ.
conversation, we will see you all again in a while. So, later.
Bye. I love you.
Au revoir.